Loving kindness itself is a translation, as many of you know, of the word metta, M-E-T-T-A. And the word metta has been translated as loving kindness, which is a little bit strange because loving kindness isn't an ordinary English word. But in the etymology, metta can really be better understood as warmth and friendliness and goodwill. The etymology actually relates to words meaning friend. So loving kindness is a beautiful practice. It's one of the jewels that comes from the Buddhist tradition, which in most cultures up until modern cultures meant something actually deeper than it does for us. It meant actually quite a strong connection. And so the friendliness is about kind of a general sense of warmth. You know, my colleague Anushka Fernandopoula says that metta is warm, expansive friendliness. It's a way to think about it. And so it's, if loving kindness works for you, that's fine, but it can have that sense of warmth, goodwill, and a general way that we approach all beings. You know, it becomes like an approach to life. You know, in the stories of the Buddha, it said that when he was basically just hanging out, walking around or just being with others, he said, my general home is loving kindness. This was his kind of default place for where he was. And we can have that without it being some big spiritual practice, just a general friendliness. You know, I think of a teacher whom I met, a Tibetan teacher, who was visiting in Boston, the Boston Aquarium, knocking on the windows, and they asked him, what are you doing? He says, I want to get the attention of the fish so I can give them loving kindness. This was his way of being in general. And this can be what we aspire towards manifesting more and more fully. And it's a very special vocation, you know, a beautiful practice where we're actually inclining towards warmth and kindness. That's the nature of loving kindness practice. We basically incline towards loving kindness as a continual practice, which is a little bit more knocking on the door of the kind heart and inviting it to come out, a little bit more like that than demanding I will become loving. So I like to talk about loving kindness practice as an intention practice and not a production practice. Really key point. It's a way that we're continually inclining. It's like we knock on the door of the heart and then whatever surfaces. And sometimes it's warmth or kindness, and sometimes it's something else. So generally with our practice, we work in two ways. We move towards loving kindness, you know, with our, you know, as we'll see in a moment, with our words, which tend to evoke loving kindness. And then we see what comes up. And often what comes up in loving kindness is what gets in the way of loving kindness. So we may incline towards loving kindness and find ourselves experiencing some irritation, some anger, distraction, and so forth. That's normal. And so we sometimes say that loving kindness has aspects of what we call purification.